Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpin. Alongside me is Chris Palmer. How are we doing today, baby?
How are you, buddy?
We're doing great today. Well, we have a loaded show for you this week. So we're going to be doing a recap of last week, which was
unbelievable
week. We're also going to be talking about some games going forward into this upcoming week, and then we're going to be making our picks. But before that, I actually have a surprise for you, Chris Palmer.
Surprise for me? What?
I have a surprise for you.
What?
So,
What are you talking about?
you know how your birthday was just passed recently?
Yes.
I got you a birthday gift.
Come on.
I got you a birthday gift.
Really?
Yeah, I'm doing it right here, right now.
Jerk off. You know that?
Merry birthday.
You're
Merry birthday.
Are you kidding me? Really?
Yeah, peep that. I got you.
Oh, you did.
Yes. Absolutely.
Guys, he got me with my last name, and this is my number from everything that I've ever done as an athlete. Thank you, my dude.
I got you, brother. Happy birthday.
Appreciate that. Thank you. That's awesome. I really appreciate that. That's what.
We got hockey season coming. We don't talk much. We don't talk much hockey, but
no.
As the season goes, I do want to give a shout out for Vasilevsky. You know that's
weird. Come on, man.
But,
but before we get into the games, I do want to, just a quick smashing of the elephant in the room.
Yeah,
John Gruden.
Yeah.
Me being someone who actually enjoyed watching him being a coach. It is completely disgusting, the things that he said in those personal emails.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't see what specifically he said, but it was everyone knows what the headlines are as to what we're entailing them. No one supports that.
No.
We don't support that here. And that's really that. Good riddance, John Gruden. We don't need that in the NFL. We don't need that ever.
Yeah. I don't want to talk too much on it because I implore everyone to kind of look into the articles and what was already posted by the New York Times and stuff like that. So please check out the articles listed. Maybe we could have them listed down below or something like that. But I implore people to actually read the articles on what happened and what was said. But with that being said, John Gruden is. I'm glad he chose to resign. Over this because this is something that you can no longer be a part of the NFL because this is not what the NFL stands for, and this is not what football is about. Football is about respect, camaraderie, brotherhood, and it's family. And to absolutely just kind of be so vile and hateful is something that is just not tolerated within the NFL. And I hope and I'm glad. I'm glad to move past it. And I want to see the Raiders move past it as well. And we're actually going to be talking about the Raiders later on in this episode. So with that being said, Chris Palmer, are you ready to talk some football?
Can move on. And I want to start off by saying monumental comeback for the Ravens this week.
Yes.
Lamar Jackson, I feel, has silenced a lot of words when it comes to the speculation that man is a running back. That man threw an 85% completion game in a 400-plus yard game, I believe, right?
Yep. 442 yards.
442 yards, believe. Man had 4 touchdowns, right?
He had 4 touchdowns.
4 touchdowns, and an overtime victory. So all the naysayers saying that Lamar Jackson's a running back, I was one of them. I'm not going to say I wasn't one of them in the beginning of the season. I said I wanted to see him throw the ball more to silence everybody and wanted them to prove me wrong. Thank you for proving me wrong. Now go out and show how you can combine it.
Yes.
Combine it.
Mm-hmm. And he was very successful at doing that during his MVP year because he was just so much of a threat to run that the passing lanes were open. But this time around, teams like the Colts, if you were watching that game, the Colts dared him to not run the ball, to just throw, to beat him throwing the ball. And they were running mostly like a 4-man rush with zone, with I believe like a cover 2. So what that means is receivers have to get open in between the men, in between the gaps, between where the defenders are. With that being said, Lamar, he threaded the needle on some throws. There was one throw to Mark Andrews,
unbelievable,
in overtime between two defenders, threading the needle, and he only missed 6 passes.
Right,
that entire
85% completion,
and it was. Honestly, as a Ravens fan, it was a roller coaster of a game because it was a completely different game from the first quarter to the last 12 minutes of the game. But the last 12 minutes of the game in overtime, it was all Ravens.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk more about the Ravens for this upcoming game because they play the Chargers, and that is going to be a very
barn burner.
Very interesting game, and we're going to be discussing that later on in this episode. But let's move on to the Thursday night game last week, and that was the Rams beating Seattle, and Russell Wilson actually getting injured against the Rams, and his finger hit Aaron Donald's helmet, and it looks bad. So the Seahawks are another team that we're actually going to be talking about. They play the Steelers. They play your Steelers.
Yes, they do.
So with that being said, man, what do you think?
When we go into the game, we'll talk more about that. But going into last week, of course, it's unfortunate for Russell Wilson. You see that play, like he definitely dislocated and broke and possibly fractured that finger. He is out for, I think, upwards of like almost a month.
6 to 8 weeks.
I didn't know it was that much. I thought it was like a month, like 4 weeks at first. But this upcoming week is his first ever career miss.
Yep.
He hasn't missed a game since being drafted. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be a very different Seattle team. We have never experienced a Seattle team without a good quarterback because they had Matt Hasselbeck and immediately went to Russell Wilson. Mm-hmm. So now they have Geno Smith who hasn't played in 7 years.
No, he's played.
He's been a backup for 7 years or some shit like that.
He's been a backup for the last couple of years. I believe his last start that I can recall was on the Giants when Eli was still on the team before Danny Dimes joined in. Because remember, they benched Eli
for one game
with Geno Smith. But
right.
With that being said, we're going to talk more about that game and what that entails with Geno Smith going forward. But man, Seattle, I feel bad for you guys because your team is not looking good, especially within that division. That division is hot. So let's move on to some games on Sunday. I want to move to your Steelers. Your Steelers actually beat the Denver Broncos 27-19. Najee Harris, man, I told you from the start, that kid is special, and it was unfortunate that in the early weeks that we weren't utilizing him. But again, if you guys refer back to week 1, I said it's going to take a couple of weeks to get a stout run game incorporated into the playbook. Mm-hmm. You saw it starting to eke its way because you saw that Najee Harris was in on more snaps than not. So even though he wasn't necessarily running the ball, he was still there. Yep. He was on the field play-by-play, hearing the plays. Even if they were being called out as run plays, if they changed the pass plays, he's still acting as the starting running back. Mm-hmm. So that led to this, which was him running 23 times, mm-hmm. getting over 100 yards the first time, and I think it was about 16 games that we had a game with more than 100 rushing yards in a game. His first as a Steeler, which is nice.
Correct. And, he got a touchdown. So,
but my question to you is, and we're gonna talk more about this later on in this episode, does Mike Tomlin stick to that formula?
Yes.
And okay.
I think so. He's, without a doubt, in my mind, one of the smartest coaches to ever touch the field. He knows what works.
He does know what works.
And obviously he didn't want to implement it on the game field because it wasn't working in practice yet. It started working in practice, so now it's going to work on the field. He's not going to throw something in the fire and be like, hey, go play what we've been scouting for a week that you guys have been crushing us. Mm-hmm. That's not how it works. Yeah. That's how you get crushed. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that led us to being one-dimensional for a couple more weeks, and we lost 3 games because of it. It's unfortunate. Mm-hmm. But hopefully, and I have a lot of faith, that going forward, we're going to see more and more of Najee Harris and less of bench throws, but more efficient throws. Mm-hmm. He's going to be able to start playing like the seasoned vets across the league, where they're throwing less for more yards and more touchdowns because they're letting their young stars be fast and be agile and make plays.
Mm-hmm.
He's just getting them the ball.
Give the ball to your playmakers. It sounds simple, but it's not.
It's so tough.
It's so tough. But with that being said, let's move on to some more games on Sunday. The Atlanta Falcons and the New York Jets actually played in London for the first time this year. We had our first London game in a while, and Atlanta kept the lead against. They actually got a lead and kept it and beat the Jets 27-20.
Barely. They were up 21-7.
Who was more impressive, the Jets or the Falcons?
That's not even a good question because they both are terrible.
They do, but who had more good? Was it more better for the Falcons to hold the lead, or was it better for the Jets to kind of keep it competitive and make their adjustments?
To be honest, I always love a good underdog. I think there was more promise in the Jets because they just like you and I were talking about this off air. The offensive coordinator, head coach, they're adapting as the game goes on, and they're coming out in the second half, and they can turn it around. Being a Steelers fan, I know what it's like to watch a second half team. The
Ravens are the same way.
Ravens are the second half team. They always have been.
They've been the same way. Yeah.
All fan bases know which teams are that, and the Jets are that. They just unfortunately don't have the playmakers to put points on the board.
Mm-hmm.
They have the defense for it,
yeah.
And now you're starting to see the signs of life that are in that offensive group. You're starting to see glimpses where it's like, wow, that was really impressive.
Mm-hmm.
I want to see more of that, but then it goes away for 6-7 plays.
Yeah.
It goes away for 2 drives, and then all of a sudden you see it again for 1 play. It's like, wow.
Flashes.
It's like, wow, where'd that come from?
Mm-hmm.
Like, refer back to week 1. Zach Wilson, the first time when he was protected, he went 5 for 5, 50 yards, and threw a touchdown.
Yeah.
You want to see more of that, but it's just there's so much disarray in the front office throughout the rest of that team that it won't be consistent until they really just decide to strap up and, be more mature as a franchise.
Yeah. They gotta be willing to commit. And that's the thing, is like they gotta be willing to commit to Zach Wilson and make sure that they put their players in the best position to succeed as much as they can. But with that being said, I want to move on to Philly and Carolina. I know this is a game that you and we talked about last week.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Hurts coming back against Sam Darnold. I smelt it. I smelt it in the air.
Yeah.
But I gotta say, what do you think of the Eagles? Can the Eagles be contenders in the NFC East?
Again, that's kind of a weak division.
It is. But can they though?
Seeing how now the Giants are injured, I can see them definitely. We're gonna get into them. We're gonna talk about the Giants and their injuries as we move forward. But I feel now they can compete more in that division. I still feel they're going to have some issues with Washington. As it progresses, I feel like Heineke is going to get better. Mm-hmm. And that defense is just going to stay that defense. Mm-hmm. As much as Philly's going to fight, I feel like they're still going to wind up 3rd and possibly 4th if Barkley and Daniel Jones wind up coming back. Mm-hmm. Daniel Jones has a pretty bad concussion. I was watching it earlier. They didn't clarify as to how long he was out. I missed that part. Mm-hmm. But that's not a season-ending injury.
No, it's not.
He's going to be out for upwards, probably out for about 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm. And you said Barkley's coming back.
Yes, he's coming back. I think in a couple of weeks. They said he was practicing today lightly.
Okay.
As bad as the picture was, it looked like his foot was completely mangled.
Mm-hmm.
It was just a high ankle sprain.
Okay.
So, silver linings in all things. Yes, he's hurt. No, he's not out.
Which is good. Which is definitely good. And for the Giants. And the Giants actually lost to Dallas 44-20. I just want to get that game. We're talking about the Giants.
Might as well.
So the Giants actually lost ugly to the Cowboys 44-20. That was pretty ugly of a loss. It was just more so. It was more ugly to see a lot of players injured. And being a lot of Giants were injured in a good amount of time, in a very close amount of time, it stoked a lot of fear for Giants fans and across the league. Just that, wow, there's a lot of injuries happening and people are just getting hurt.
Yeah, and that's kind of like the norm for this season. There have been so many, And I'm not just saying like injuries across the board. As we've said, there's a 100% chance you're going to get injured in this game. You know, one way or another, you will end up hurt at some point. You probably will end up playing hurt without saying anything. You may end up playing hurt even after you said something. That's just the way the game rolls. I'm talking about injuries where a notable player on a team is out for excess of 2 to 3 weeks, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about a debilitating team injury. Russell Wilson being out. Tyson Alualu being out. TJ Watt going down.
Mm-hmm.
T.Y. Hilton not playing since preseason.
Mm-hmm.
I saw today that he's actually coming back next week for his first game for the Colts.
That's actually pretty good for the Colts.
So that's cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they finally have another weapon. That's going to be cool. But these injuries, it's almost questionable as to how the training staff is for the teams across the board. You know, how well are they actually taking care of their players?
Mm-hmm.
And how well the players are taking care of themselves, too, because it's not all on the trainers.
That is true. And that is a conversation that I think that should be continued. And being that I just hope that for all the teams and for all the players there, they're getting all the best medical care that they can, because for anyone to have an injury like that and to not get the proper treatment is not only bad, not just like the sport aside, but as a person, it's very hard to keep going injured with your physical body. So I just hope that whoever is really injured throughout the league gets that medical treatment that they need to move on and become not only a better person and then eventually become a better player.
Right.
So, but with that being said, let's move on to some more games on Sunday. Tom Brady had an absolute field day against the Miami Dolphins, 45-17. Tell me, we could talk about Brady, but I want to talk about the Dolphins real quick. What can they do to stay competitive with that division? Tua, I believe, is coming back.
Yes, I don't know that he's coming back.
Maybe not this
week.
week.
He is eligible to play Sunday
He's
in London.
eligible to play.
They're playing in London this week,
Okay.
So,
and they're going to get their bye week
shortly after.
Yeah.
So he may come in. I don't see him starting. I see them actually taking this week and then the bye week, and then the third week after he's cleared, he'll come back.
Mm-hmm.
I think that would be the smarter play versus throwing him in when he's first cleared, and then he's going to somewhere he's never been.
Yeah.
He's never been to London.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't know those conditions. You know, the conditions of the field, conditions of the air, like the air quality, everything is different in London. And you're playing at 9:30 in the morning versus 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm. Well,
or
it's
it'd be 1 o'clock.
Yeah.
Okay. But even still, it's, you know, it's all different. Mm-hmm. So I don't think it would actually be a smart play to play him in London.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with you. I just hope that the Dolphins can kind of stay afloat and stay competitive. And that game, again, is going to be against the Jags, right?
That should be, I believe so, and that should be a win in the Dolphin column, I believe.
That hopefully the Dolphins can win that game. But with that being said, the Dolphins got absolutely smacked by Brady, but that was kind of to be expected.
Yeah, if anybody didn't think Tampa was going to win that game, like, you don't know what you're watching.
I want to actually move on to a game that I don't think anyone expected how it ended, and that was the Green Bay Packers and the Cincinnati Bengals. And the Packers escaping Cincinnati.
What a game.
With a win, 25-22. Your thoughts on that game?
What a game. First off, Jamar Chase.
He has established himself as a very good wide receiver
in the league, dude. And it's not even close.
Yeah.
Call it what you want. He has his college quarterback throwing to him. Call it what you want. They've had that since college.
Yeah.
That's something that you can't even teach, that freaking tandem that they have. That is one of the most lethal duos I have ever seen play the sport, period. Unbelievable outing for Jamar Chase. On Green Bay's side, of course, Aaron Rodgers is Aaron Rodgers. Joe Burrow stood toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers, and he went 10 rounds.
Yep.
And Aaron Rodgers left limping.
And that game, I just want to say, for anyone who did not see that game, there were so many missed field goals in the last 2 minutes and overtime. There was like a combined 5 missed field goals within that time span. And Green Bay could have won it earlier.
They could have won in regulation.
The Bengals could have won it in overtime, but ultimately the Packers did win it, and I'm glad to see that this was a game that the Packers should have won easily, but that absence of Jair Alexander was very big within that game. So I hope he's another player that I hope that gets the treatment and gets healthy soon, because he's a good player, but also a good person as well.
Interesting stat, actually. Mm-hmm. This was the first Green Bay home win in Cincy since Week 3 of 1998.
Green Bay win in Cincy?
Yes.
Okay. What?
Yeah.
It's been a
long
time.
Been about 28 years?
28 years?
28
1998?
1998, yeah.
No, that's ain't 28. It's 23.
Oh, it's 23. That's a terrible event.
It's okay, Melissa. But you're good at talking ball. But let's move on to Tennessee, Jacksonville. Tennessee just mollywopped Jacksonville, 37-19. Derrick Henry, 130 yards and 3 touchdowns. Best running back in the league.
It's not even close.
But when is Jacksonville getting their first win?
I don't know.
Okay.
Plus 20 straight. Do you think they're going to go for Nuke? Good 25 straight.
They're going to go for the reverse nuke?
Go for 25 straight?
I think they can do that. I think they can go for nuke.
But at that point, think about it. At that point, you've lost 10 games. Do you shoot for first overall now?
No, because teams don't want to lose. Teams want to win. And coaches want to win. And players want to win when they play games.
I get it.
So as much as an organization may be like, hey, the season's done, let's just go for the first overall pick and get the player that we want. Teams and coaches and players decide games. Front offices don't decide games. So with that being said, Jacksonville is going to be fighting from every game from here on out. They may not win many games, but like we've been saying with all the rookie quarterbacks, don't look for wins, look for progress. And you can find a lot of progress for the team within a lot of losses. And I think that's what a lot of teams should be striving. A lot of developing teams should be looking at.
I agree, but knowing who Trevor Lawrence is, you're always going to see progress with him because he is a stellar athlete in a team of mutts. There's just a team of mutts around him. He has nobody. He is stranded in Jacksonville as a rookie right now. There's really no one behind him. That running back's pretty stout, but they have a crap offensive line.
Yeah.
They have one receiver.
Chark.
Right. Chark. And I think they also have no, they don't. Never mind. Well, they had CeeDee Lamb, but I'm thinking
no, that's the Cowboys.
Right.
But the Jags will probably win at some point in the season. It's just a matter of when.
I think their best chance is honestly against Miami in London. That's the most even matchup they have.
Either that game or the Jets.
Honestly, with how the Jets play, I don't know because they can turn. If they do turn around and start playing a full game, they're going to be a solid team in a couple years.
It's something to look for, and Jacksonville is one of those teams to keep your eye on to see how they're developing as the weeks go on. But I want to move on to another team that has a rookie quarterback that got another win, and that is Mac Jones and the New England Patriots. They beat the Houston Texans 25-22, just escaping Houston. But tell me, what did you see out of New England that you liked?
It wasn't really much with New England. It was just Bill Belichick doing what he does, and that's abusing rookie quarterbacks.
Yeah.
He's 11-1 against rookie quarterbacks. That's what he does. It doesn't matter who's on his team, he's going to pick a rookie quarterback apart. Mm-hmm. And that's what he did. They just squeaked away, but that's because he, too, has a rookie quarterback.
Yep.
He has a rookie quarterback. He has minimal running game. He has minimal offensive line, and he has one tight end. So there's not much to work with. So what we saw that night was a very calculated coaching move by Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick has what they call a bread sandwich.
He eats bread sandwich.
That whole team is a bread sandwich. Where you have 3 pieces of bread. I ain't going to get into it. but let's move on to New Orleans, Washington. New Orleans, I don't know what to make out of this. New Orleans won 33-22. New Orleans is up and down throughout this. They win big, they lose big. They win big, they lose big.
Right.
I don't know what to expect from them this season. I don't think I even want to pick them anymore this season.
No, like they're so hard to decipher as to what's going to happen.
Yeah,
Like they are damn near impossible.
yeah.
Like you can't, for any point in time, say like, "Yep, it's a lock," or "Damn, they're going to lose." Because the minute that happens, it's like tables are going to switch. If I was a New Orleans fan, I'd have high blood pressure. I put pretty high blood pressure now.
Yeah.
But with how they play, at least I know if we're going to lose. You see New Orleans play, and they'll do great for a quarter and then get swept for a half. And then do great the fourth quarter and bring it within a couple of points. And it's like, why'd you do that to me if you were just going to lose?
I do have to say, I'm glad you're turning around on Taylor Heineke, though. Because
I respect him.
He's a very good, solid quarterback. He's not stellar, but he's solid.
No, he is smart enough to learn the game from the coach that he has.
Yes.
That's what's setting him apart from a lot of quarterbacks that aren't succeeding.
Mm-hmm.
They're intending on letting their athletic ability go drive them through. He knows where he's at. Because, again, he was thrown out of the league he was originally in, and he was humbled that it can be over like that.
Like that?
So when he was brought back, he came in with a different level head than anybody has in this league right now. Because they're coming from college to draft to play. And most of them are starters already. So that mindset of I'm invincible, I'm a pro football player is there. Not for him.
Mm-hmm.
And he rolled into a very humble, very old school coach being Ron Rivera, who at the time was battling cancer. So he was humble in himself because he knew that there was things outside the sport as well more important. Mm-hmm. And he still put the sport first. So he, being Taylor Heineke, also gave into that and fed into that. And is letting one of the smartest minds on the sideline right now in the league teach you.
Yep.
Because he's offering it freely. And you're being paid to learn from him. And you're watching it happen. He is progressing into a very, very stubborn fucking quarterback. He's stubborn.
He is a very solid quarterback. And I just feel that Washington is a team that should not be underestimated. No. That defense hasn't been playing as it was last year, but Washington is a team to keep your eye on throughout the season. But I want to move on to the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. Detroit almost got their first win, but Minnesota made a last-second field goal to break some hearts. Tell me, can Minnesota come back and be competitive within this division?
That's tough. That's really tough. I don't know because again, they were one of those teams that we said in the beginning of the year that they're just good enough to not get a good draft pick.
Yeah.
Like they're one of those teams where you could just throw them in the air and you don't know what the hell is going to happen. They're almost like the Saints right now.
Yeah.
But Minnesota's been like that for a couple years now. It's like you just don't know. They're tough. They fight. They can win games, but can they compete in the postseason? Probably not.
Probably not.
So can they compete in the division? They're probably sitting pretty in the third seed. And because of that 17th game, they might eke out a wild card run. But if they do get there, they're going to get thrashed.
Yeah.
So to ask that question again, they're one of those teams where they are just good enough to not get a high enough draft pick to contend, and it's unfortunate because everyone has a little bit of a soft spot for Minnesota.
I mean, I know I do.
I do. Everyone has a little bit because there's just a little bit of magic in Minnesota that's right there.
Just a little bit. I also really love their stadium, by the way. Like their stadium is amazing. The architecture of it. They're just one of those teams where it's like, who got a new stadium, and it's like,
but with the Black Toilet Bowl in Las Vegas.
I mean, I was actually going to say let's move on to Vegas because they actually had a giant turd against the Bears. Obviously, there was a lot of stuff happening outside of the organization, but they ultimately lost to Chicago 20-9. Tell me, Chris Palmer, are you still buying the Raiders?
You see, again, as someone who had a soft spot for the Raiders and was actually kind of buying into the coaching antics of John Gruden, I don't know. It's going to be what happens with their new interim head coach. Mm-hmm. He was the special teams coach. in the beginning. Now he's the interim head coach until they can either sign him or the offensive coordinator. They're both in runnings for being head coach. I don't know. That's just imploded on itself. Yeah. Everything in Las Vegas, any shed of hope that anybody had for Vegas, in my opinion, just imploded from inside. Like, the morale I would believe in that entire room and office is shot.
Yeah. We're going to talk about the Raiders later on in this episode and see if they can bounce back after not only that game, but after everything that's happening with that organization. So we're going to be talking about that later. But with that being said, man, they had so much momentum.
They did.
And then it just kind of halted right there. On the flip side, though, I will say this is good for Justin Fields to get another win under his belt. So that is something that Chicago is building towards, but one brick at a time, one game at a time.
Something I did actually find impressive. Remember how his first game he was sacked, 9 times in Cleveland?
Justin Fields, yeah.
Yeah. Since then, he's been sacked 3 times.
That's pretty good.
In 2 games, he's been sacked 3 times.
That's really good.
So productivity is skyrocketing in Chicago again.
Teams, protect your rookie quarterbacks. Actually, just protect your quarterbacks.
Quarterback, no matter how old he is.
In general, just protect your quarterback.
The older he is, the less he should hit the floor. I just want that one to be known. The older he is, the more you should protect him. Look at Tom Brady.
Look at Big Ben.
Look at both sides of the same coin. Look at Tom Brady. This man was protected. He did get knocked down a lot because he had lack of offensive line. Mm-hmm. Look at Big Ben. This man's twice the size, but he's double as broken.
Yes.
And we had an offensive line for years. But you also have to take into consideration what I said earlier is self-preservation. Tom Brady spends upwards of $300,000 on an athletic trainer diet.
7 digits, mate.
Is it really?
7 digits.
Oh, my God. Ben Roethlisberger doesn't watch film.
He has a yoga class in the offseason, and that is his workout.
Yeah, he shows up with a fucking venti Starbucks and a jelly donut walking in. Y'all ready to do yoga? This man gains 10 pounds in the offseason. Are you kidding me?
It's like it's all muscle, baby.
Yeah, he gains 10 pounds of solid muscle.
It ain't muscle.
He has a 4th chin.
Okay, I want to move on to a game that we talked about last week, and it was an absolute barn burner, and that was the Chargers against the Browns. My God.
Game of the week.
Justin Herbert is special. We said that last week.
We've been saying it for weeks.
Baker Mayfield played really well, but there was something that I thought about before, and I told you last year when the Ravens beat the Browns on that Monday night game, where it was like 47-42 or something. I think it was the same score, something like that.
Something like that, right.
But I said, as the Browns, even at their best, is not enough. And I think for the Browns, if you went into this game on Friday, you told everyone, said, look, the Browns are going to have over 500 yards of offense. They're going to score 42 points on the board. And Baker Mayfield is going to have 300 yards. I was thinking 3 in my head. But over 300 yards and no picks.
That's a trouncing on paper. You hear it.
You would think that game would be a blowout.
Then you look at the Chargers.
But then you look at the Chargers and everything that they had to do. And obviously they had that PI call later in the game that was pretty game-changing. But regardless, the way that game went and the way that game manifested, the Chargers, just like the Ravens did as well, overcame a lot of adversity and played clutch when they had to. And the best teams play their best football in the fourth quarter. And I think most teams in all the sports, they play their best
at the end
when they know that they have to play their best. And I think the Chargers, they're a team that I would not, granted the Ravens play them this upcoming week, but I would not want to see them in the playoffs because they are dangerous.
Well, here's the thing. They are going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And they're probably going to be in the AFC Championship this year.
Probably.
Again, there is something truly magical happening in Los Angeles. Like we said last week, Cleveland is a well-oiled machine. Look at what they did. They put up 42 points, and it wasn't enough.
Yep.
Justin Herbert's is a junior now, or he's a sophomore?
This is his second year.
He's a sophomore.
Yep.
He is a sophomore in the NFL.
Yep.
Look at what he did.
Yep.
Because he got 2 pieces on the offensive line. Imagine him with a star receiver now. A young star receiver. He has Keenan Allen.
He does have Keenan Allen.
But he's...
Also has Mike Williams.
Again, still they're more on the outer range of their careers now. So you get a young stud from the freaking draft, or you get someone in free agency who's young enough to really perform still, and let him go to work.
Also, I want to give a shout out to Austin Eckler. He's been playing absolutely out of his mind.
Unbelievable.
He's been playing out of his mind, so I just want to make sure that he gets some love.
Baby. Pound for pound.
He gets some love, too. So I actually want to move on to some NFC matchups, and the Arizona Cardinals barely squeaked away with a win over the 49ers, 17 to 10. A very low-scoring affair. Good on the Niners keeping Arizona low, but Arizona, are they still lithium hot?
Yeah, it was just more so. I still think they're pretty hot. The only thing that I really saw there was they have trouble with mobile quarterbacks on defense. And that's really why that game was so even throughout, is because you now have 2 of the same quarterbacks playing each other. You have Kyler Murray, who is unstoppable this year.
Yeah.
And now, on the flip side, you had Trey Lance trying to prove himself. And everyone knows Trey Lance is an athlete. He's going to succeed in this league.
He's on the right team to succeed.
Correct. He is an athlete, and he's the same type of athlete that Kyler Murray is. So it's pretty telltale why that game was so close the way it was. Both of those defenses struggle against mobile quarterbacks. And with that being said, both of those mobile quarterbacks are too young to get through a defense that struggles, even though they're tough. That's why they didn't get the points on the board. Those defenses struggle, but they struggled nonetheless because they were young. Because they're young.
Yep.
Kyler Murray, he's special. He's great. He's still young. He has a lot of developmental issues still. He still has time, needs time to develop. He's doing it better season by season. But now you look over in LA and you see Herbert doing it week by week.
Yep.
And you're like, time's ticking, dude. Time's ticking.
I was gonna say, I just thought of this now. I would love to see a Chargers Cardinals Super Bowl. That would be special. But obviously, I'm just thinking right now. But I want to move on to a team that actually does have some Super Bowl experience, and that is the Kansas City Chiefs against the Buffalo Bills. And the Bills absolutely trounced the Chiefs 38-20. That was a rough game for Kansas City, but I got to say, for Buffalo, their only challenge left on the schedule is Tampa Bay. They got to play Tampa, I believe, week 13 or something like that.
Right, that's the end of the season.
Could the AFC have to go through Buffalo?
Yes. Is it going through Buffalo?
Is it just going through Buffalo?
For years to come.
Okay.
For years to come. I said it last year that this year, because Tom Brady left, Buffalo took that division. It's theirs.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So
you and I both said that.
Now,
the power has shifted.
The train is going to run through Buffalo for years now.
I think this year in particular, it may just be hosted right in Buffalo. We'll see, obviously, as the years go on.
I don't know that's going to be hosted in Buffalo.
But it might be hosted in Buffalo.
It might. It very well could be, but,
Because, now think about this. Kansas City, if the Ravens, Chargers, or Bills do better than Kansas City, if the Chargers beat Kansas City, and they did, they don't have the tiebreaker. Kansas City doesn't have the tiebreaker against those 3 teams, Baltimore, the Chargers, and Buffalo. So if they, were to meet in the playoffs, Kansas City would have to travel to one of those places. That is going to be tough. So
all of those places are tough to play.
All those places are very tough. But with that being said, Kansas City, they're probably going to get back on track at some point.
I hope so.
That defense is something to be concerned about. I hope that they make a push for a player come trade deadline, because the trade deadline is on November 2nd. So I would hope that they make some kind of play to improve that defense, because Lord knows they need help.
They need a linebacker is really what they need. Because that whole center field is open for the taking.
Yep.
everything from a drag route to a zone run is there for the taking, and everyone is going up on it.
And it is very interesting to see the team that was so dominant last year, the Chiefs, just become so mortal this year.
Pedestrian.
So mortal this year. Not so much. I mean, they can win some fireworks games, but they're not going to be winning close games.
They can't score on every play anymore.
No.
You know, remember back to last year, they were doing 1-2 play drives and scoring. Now they have to condition themselves to do 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 play drives and still cash out.
Teams are
getting tough.
Teams are forcing them to construct a 10 to 12 play drive in order to march down the field to beat them. And what they're doing is they're not allowing Kansas City to cheat and go for the big chunk play
every play.
So that's the thing, is like, when in doubt, Patrick Mahomes is looking at either Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce.
Right.
And so you double one of them, say you can't have both, but you can have one in a limited area.
Right.
And if you double Tyreek Hill, you take away that back end.
Mm-hmm.
You make sure that he does not burn anyone on the deep corner. You make sure that you have a safety along with your corner with there. And Buffalo has some pretty good defensive backs. Tre'Davious White, Micah Hyde, Tremaine Edmonds. One player that I did want to mention that is a player to look at is their free safety, Teron Johnson. He is a young, emerging player. Keep your eye on him. He's a stud. Greg Rousseau is another player as well. He's their edge rusher.
Yep.
He is another player to watch out for. Yes, so Buffalo has some.
Buffalo's nasty, dude.
Buffalo is nasty, and they just were right on display against the Chiefs. But with that being said, that was the recap for last week, and we are going to be moving on to some games that we want to talk about this upcoming week 6. And I want to start with my Ravens and against the Chargers. We were just talking about them. So Kansas City lost the tiebreaker to the Ravens, Chargers, and Buffalo. Those 3 teams are absolutely insane. Those 3 teams obviously scored over 30 points each this past week.
Right.
But man, their quarterback play for Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and Lamar is just so bar none compared to the rest of the league. Those guys are playing absolutely special, and Herbert and Lamar especially are playing out of their minds. Lamar had over 502 yards of offense combined for rushing and passing. He passed for over 442 yards, and he had 62 rushing yards, and he was just So, sorry, doing math in my head then, that's 504 yards. So,
right.
With that being said, he's absolutely insane. And Justin Herbert, he played spectacular, and we've been saying he's special.
He's unbelievable.
But Lamar played better than he against the Colts. Mm-hmm. Now, the Colts' defense against Lamar, they were very stubborn in saying, look, we're going to play cover 2, we're going to rush 4. They only blitzed
a couple of times
in the 4th and overtime when they had to, when they were very desperate. But throughout the game, they had a 4-man rush playing cover 2 zone. And Lamar just found the holes and found Hollywood and Andrews. Both had big games, over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns a pop for both of them. So Hollywood's having a breakout year.
Yes.
Andrews, he's been solid for the past couple of years. But Hollywood is emerging, and I like to see that. But, man, Justin Herbert is playing really well. I think the Ravens actually have the number 1 offense going into this game on Sunday. Obviously, Monday had a big factor to do with that. You boost your numbers like that. But with that being said, this is going to be one of those games where it's probably going to be very similar to how it was with Cleveland, where it's going to be pretty high scoring. The Ravens' defense actually is worse this year than it was last year. Last year we had pretty solid defense. We have the 24th ranked defense going into this game. So I'm a little concerned that Justin Herbert is going to find the holes. And the holes that I see when I'm watching the game is whatever side of the field Marlon Humphrey is not on, which is the side that Marcus Peters would have been on if he was there, but we're going to attack that weak side corner. So, man, tell me, what do you see? Do you see a shootout like I do? Like,
I see possible game of the week here.
yeah.
But first, let me start with your Steelers, and then I'll go into the Chargers.
Oh, you mean my Ravens?
Yeah.
Sorry. You're thinking your Steelers.
Ravens. Let me start with your Ravens.
Okay.
I'll go into the Chargers. First off, Andrews. That catch, that toe tap, wow. I'll give him that. Wow.
People sleep on Andrews, but he's up there with George Kittle and Kelsey.
I can agree.
He's up.
I can agree with that. I'm going to give him his shout out. Away again, unbelievable. He had a forced fumble early in the game. One thing I'm not a big fan of though, that offensive line.
No, I don't like it.
That offensive line has no push to the point where they're getting pushed back and Lamar Jackson's tripping on them.
Mm-hmm.
That happened about 3, maybe 4 times throughout that game.
Yep.
So that's something that can lead to a lot of concern because the Chargers' defensive front is sick.
Yes.
It's sick.
Headed by Joey Bosa.
That edge rush is retarded. Sorry. Joey Bosa's unbelievable. Those D tackles are sick. That offensive line has very little push. Another discipline issues, guys. Like, you guys were falling for hard counts.
Hard counts, but also Tavon Young at the end.
Tavon Young, man. I mean, I get it. He's young. He's emotional. Come on. Really?
What we're referring to is at the very end, on a second down, we got the tackle on them at the very end of the game. The Colts need a field goal to tie. This is when the Ravens tied it at 25-25. And at the very end, we stopped them. It's going to be a 3rd and 20. Tavon Young pushes some dude in the helmet, and he gets
15.
Was it unsportsmanlike conduct?
Yeah,
it was
for 15 yards, and then it was over.
It was undisciplined, but we were very fortunate that he missed the field goal there and then forced overtime. I thought for sure he blew the game for us.
Well, you also got to remember Blankenship was playing hurt.
Yes,
he was playing with a hamstring injury on his kicking leg.
I didn't know that going into this game.
Yeah. I didn't either until they brought out their punter.
Yeah,
it was their actual kicker and the placeholder for a field goal, the one that they missed. That I believe it was Marlon Humphrey that went off sides before halftime.
Yep.
So, and that's again where I say discipline issues.
Yep.
You are the veteran on that defense, mate. You cannot jump off sides on a field goal attempt.
The only person who can is Calais Campbell. And he could just force his way to that field goal.
That man has a mitt. He just has a baseball mitt, and he went to catch a football.
6'8".
I know, he's a giant.
And when he fully extends,
he's got to be 7'2".
He's nasty.
He's ridiculous.
Easily.
He's ridiculous.
He's
like Julius Pepper size.
He's absolutely nasty. I'm so glad we have him. But he is another one of those veteran presence on the field. And he's actually the one that actually leads in the pregame speech, the warm-up speech. So he's the one that's actually initiating that. And I like to see that because I've always liked Calais Campbell. He's been a very solid player for the past couple of years, and I like that he's on the Ravens now.
Another thing that I have been saying since he was drafted, Lamar Jackson needs to cover the goddamn ball.
Yes.
That 98-yard return should have been a touchdown. The refs gave you one.
I just consider it a 98-yard return.
It was a 98-yard touchdown return that the refs took back because it was good TV.
Yeah.
It was good TV. Because they reviewed everything and they called it an illegal forward pass. But guess what? You look at that man's arm when he's throwing the ball. It's going this way. It hit the man in the face mask. And they said it was a forward pass. It was going backwards. It's just that man was running so fast he ran into it.
I thought it was a lateral. I'll be honest.
I
thought it was.
It was a legal lateral. They called it back because it was good TV.
But either way, they scored a touchdown on it regardless.
Now, flipping to the Chargers. I see some issues there still, too. There's magic happening there. I will not stop saying it.
Yeah.
But those zone run defensive issues that we saw in week 1, they're still there. In rarity, but when they're there, they get burned and they get burned bad. And I'm talking like 20, 25-yard runs.
Yeah.
Like, not a simple first down, but like something that's doubling the chains. The edge rush is just becoming more menacing. You know, Joey Bosa, he's aging like one of the most incredible edge rushes. And we said it before that now that it's unfortunate that now that the Chargers are becoming relevant, he's going to become more in the conversation when he should have been in the conversation from the jump.
Yeah, he's one of those players that he is absolutely special. Him and his brother Nick are absolutely unbelievable players. And we just love seeing them in games because they change games.
Yeah.
And he's one of those players that watching this game, if the Ravens don't double him, he is going to break the game loose.
Yeah.
And so, granted, Lamar is the most elusive quarterback that there is. Mm-hmm. If you have a solid defense like that and a solid edge rusher like Joey Bosa, he can get to Lamar.
But the one way that you guys can counteract that is throwing your best defenseman on Slater. I believe he's their left tackle.
He is their left tackle, yes.
He gets burned too many times than it's safe to do.
You know who we put on him?
Calais Campbell.
Away.
I'll put either of them two.
I would put Away right on Slater, rookie on rookie, just like boom, right on him.
Bang it out.
And then Calais Campbell work the inside.
Yeah, I agree. You know, looking back at last week, they hit a very good third quarter shift for momentum to come back and win that game.
You talking about the Chargers?
The Chargers, yes.
Okay.
Again, I want to see a full game against another top contending team, which we've been seeing.
Yeah.
But now this is going to be one of their toughest tests, being the Ravens, because Lamar Jackson is honestly, I believe he may be that air quote generational talent that we're looking for. Sorry, I'm still looking for it in Trevor Lawrence. I'm not seeing it. So now I'm going to start looking for it. And we're seeing something really bloom out of Lamar Jackson. And we're seeing a lot of things start to develop with a lot of these young quarterbacks. And it's really exciting to watch as these young quarterbacks come in and succeed immediately and just perfect their craft within a couple of years.
Yep. It is. I mean, y'all may have been joking. Y'all may have thought I was joking when I said Lamar might be going for MVP again this year.
Again, that's
he might be.
Again, that's
still,
it's a stretch. That's still might be a stretch.
But he's actually playing like his numbers right now.
He's having an MVP year.
He's actually are better than his numbers in his MVP year currently, where they stand. So, with that being said, I think that this game going into next week, the Ravens and Chargers, this is going to be one of the most dynamic games we're going to be seeing. But I think both offenses are going to have a field day against both of those defenses. I do like the Chargers defense. Again, Joey Bosa, Asante Samuel Jr., he's another cornerback that's
unbelievable.
Was like just lying there in the second round, and then the Chargers are like, you know what, we're going to take him. And
he's just like that.
And he fits perfectly. I think this game, the team that is willing to run the ball more effectively is the team that's going to win. And like you were saying before, teams can run on the Chargers. And I think being that we are the Ravens and we are one of the best rushing teams in the league, we will run on the Chargers.
When you're healthy. That's not...
Yeah, that's true.
When you're healthy.
I like Latavius Murray on there.
I like Latavius Murray.
Devontae Freeman on there. He didn't look bad. But Lamar was the leading rusher on Monday.
He will be until your halfbacks come back.
I'm fine with that.
Which... Are you, though? Because he fumbled it 3 times.
I'm willing for that because you know what it is.
Are you willing to take that chance against the Chargers?
Yes, because I put my trust into my quarterback in Lamar.
I respect that.
And even though he will have his mistakes, he will make mistakes, and that is fine. That is to be expected. But what he has shown this year in the Chiefs and the Colts game is that he can overcome adversity, even if he sets himself up for that adversity. He can, he will. He threw 2 picks in the Chiefs game. One was a pick 6. And he was trailing the entire game until he came back. And this game, they did not play well against the Colts.
No.
But they did exactly what they needed to in the second half and to win that game.
Right.
And so even though Lamar does make mistakes, and he will make mistakes going forward, I still trust him because I think he can overcome a lot of mistakes.
Okay. I respect that. I feared his ball handling against that defense because they are strict maniacs.
I hold my breath every time.
And they don't cause pileups. They cause live balls. And they're fast in LA.
Yep.
So you strip a ball and it goes out. Who's to say that someone on that defense won't pick it up and run it?
They will. They'll just take it and run.
And when it comes time to it, your fastest players are now 50 yards down the field because it was a pass play that collapsed because your offensive line has no push.
Yep.
So now Lamar Jackson has to scramble, and because he runs with the ball at his hip, he loses it.
Yep.
And your fastest players now have to run twice as far to try and get back. Mm-hmm. So to me, that would be kind of setting yourself up for failure against the Chargers specifically. Because of how many points that offense can put up, you don't want to spend points on defense either.
No.
You can't do that against LA.
No.
There are teams where it's like you can give up a fumble 6 because we can make that up as an offense. You give that offense points that they don't need to put up in LA, that's a hard day to overcome.
Yeah.
That's a very hard day of overcoming.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something to take into consideration.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that this game, mistakes will be had by both quarterbacks, but whoever can capitalize on the mistakes and whoever can minimize mistakes will win that game.
Ultimately,
being that this is in Baltimore, I feel a little bit more.
I would feel more comfortable sitting at home.
Yeah.
But watching this team come in, dude, they're so hot. It's going to be such a good game.
Yeah, both teams are
such
absolutely
a good game.
Hot. But I want to actually just move on to your Steelers. Actually, they got the Seahawks, and now we were just talking about two lithium hot teams. These are the Steelers and the Seahawks are teams that kind of need to get hot at this point in time because within their respective divisions, they have to keep up. The Steelers have to keep up in the AFC North, and the Seahawks have to keep up in the NFC West. Now, Russell Wilson, he's out for an extended period of time because of his finger. But I want to ask you the question that I asked of you earlier. Does Mike Tomlin stick to the formula that they had in last week?
Yeah. As you have trust in your quarterback,
you have trust in...
I have trust in my organization.
Okay.
I've said it in the beginning. I trust the Rooney family to find the substitution for Ben when the time comes this year.
Has to be.
It has to be. I trust Mike Tomlin as being one of the smartest minds in the league today, and probably in a bunch of years past. Again, he hasn't had a losing season, so he clearly knows what works, and he knew going into this that we were a one-dimensional team. There's no doubt in my mind that he didn't know. So knowing that, and then you bring in Najee Harris, and then you have a full-scale playbook made. I gave this analogy a couple of weeks back, but you overhauled, and it was said that they overhauled the playbook prior to Ben coming back from his injury. Mm-hmm. So where he didn't have to take 7 steps and launch the ball to save his arm a season. That's all that playbook was entailing. It was 2-step, 3-step drops, and a quick throw. 2-step, 3, quick throw, quick throw, quick throw, quick throw. And then we wanted to incorporate James Conner, but unfortunately he got so hurt, we couldn't do that.
Yeah.
Circa Najee Harris.
Comes in at the right time.
With no plays. It was the right place, right time, wrong situation.
Yeah.
So now, you as Mike Tomlin have to look at this kid and be like, wow, he is exactly what we need. You start looking through a 90-play playbook, and you now have to start sifting through plays that either you don't run, that aren't effective, that you can't run at practice, everything in between. And now you have to go back to your old playbooks when you had a stout running back, Rashad Mendenhall, Jerome Bettis, and so on and so forth.
Le'Veon
Bell, of course. So you've got to go back to those playbooks. The team hasn't run those playbooks in 2 years. They don't know those plays. They don't have them memorized to run fluidly against a team. Like I said earlier, it's like it would take a couple of weeks to get it running efficient enough in practice to run efficiently during the game. And if you watched last week when the Steelers played, their offensive line was like night and day compared to a week prior. And I mean that by they were protecting Ben because they weren't doing it all game. They were able to set up and pass block because it wasn't being read and stripped through by the defensive line. And they were able to get pushed on the defensive line while running run plays from the shotgun. That's what's starting to fool people now. Is people read shotgun in the Steelers, they think, oh crap, bench passing. But now you have Najee Harris that can run from shotgun and take it for 12 yards. Or you can take it for 9. And I still don't agree with the second and short shotgun passes. Those, I think, we could do away with all day. If anything, go back to the pistol. We ran pistol for 3 years.
Yeah.
We ran pistol for 3 years. Mm-hmm. We're the pioneers of the pistol offense. So it's like, go back to the pistol. I wouldn't mind seeing a pistol play here and there. If you want to drop back for a quick pass, just know you have him behind you.
Not on a 2nd and 2, though.
Not on a 2nd and 2, but again, you want to run something where it kind of looks like a shotgun, but it's not a shotgun. Throw a pistol. Yeah. Pistol run, not a shotgun run. Do something a little different now that you can. I think now we're going to start seeing some of the older plays that the Steelers used to run that used to work when Ben was playing hurt, like when he played with a fractured foot in the AFC Championship years back. Mm-hmm. That's what led us to making the pistol for him. Mm-hmm. Because he couldn't step back, he couldn't walk, but he still played football.
I just want to explain to our audience the difference between a shotgun and a pistol formation. So a shotgun is typically the quarterback will be behind the center, about 5 yards or so behind the center. Either have a running back next to him on his left or right. But the pistol, he's about 3 yards back behind center, and he can have a running back either to his left, right, or behind him as well.
Or all three.
So it's, yes.
Full
so
house.
He can have a full house as well. So he has what the pistol does. It's a little bit more of a shallow shotgun, but you have more options from the backfield. And teams, and I agree with you, I would like to see the Steelers incorporate that as well. And I just hope that Mike Tomlin utilizes Najee Harris to the fullest this year. Because, like you and I were just talking about off air, Ben Roethlisberger, he had 25 passing attempts against the Broncos.
Mm-hmm. Cut it in half.
Which
what was that last week?
Weeks prior, he was throwing about 50 times a game.
Right.
Which was ridiculous. And we said cut in half. And how many rushing attempts did that?
23?
23?
23. He had 23 attempts, 122 yards, and a touchdown.
So
he literally cut it in half.
You split your passing attempts to your rushing attempts, and you balance the offense. And look what happened. The Steelers actually looked true to form last week against Denver. Now, I will say this. Denver, they do have a solid team, but they can't do it with Teddy Bridgewater.
No. Teddy Bridgewater is a solid backup. He isn't a starting quarterback. It's unfortunate that they went 3-0 and everyone started shooting win because they didn't realize they went 3-0 against 0-9.
Yeah, against three of the worst teams in the league.
Right. And as soon as they started playing teams that, have a playoff chance, they started getting embarrassed.
Oh, you mean the Ravens and the Steelers?
The Ravens, the Steelers, yes. Come on, guys. You guys have to look at the report card.
It's like, they won. But I will say this, though. I think that the Broncos, again, they're just a quarterback away from being a very competitive team.
Yes.
That defense is very stout, and they do have a lot of young pieces on offense as well that are really well. Javonte Williams for the Broncos, he was a stellar piece. Stellar running back against the Steelers. I think he had 64 yards. But granted, against that Steelers defense,
that's a lot.
That's pretty good. I will say this, though. Getting back to the Steelers and Seahawks game, I told you off air that if Russell Wilson was in this game, I would be leaning towards Seattle because Seattle is magic. Obviously, that defense is the worst ranked defense going into this game. But again, like we discussed in weeks prior, I don't know how committed Mike Tomlin is to the run. I loved what I saw against Denver, and I thought that was exactly what they needed to do. They needed to run the ball and cut Ben's passes right in half, split it right down. Does he do it again? That's what I want to see. And this game is primetime. This is the Sunday night primetime game.
Mm-hmm.
So all eyes are going to be on Ben. And if Ben specifically does not do well, like, people are going to be talking about it for a while. But I think now that he's going to be up against Geno Smith, I think he's going to be the better quarterback against Geno Smith.
Well, yeah, that's not even a conversation to have. Geno Smith doesn't belong in that conversation with Ben Roethlisberger.
He didn't play bad.
It was the fourth quarter, mate. It's not a full game.
He didn't play bad.
He didn't play bad.
No, but this game against the Steelers is going to be a larger sample size.
It's going to be a full game with Geno Smith back on the field. Hasn't happened in years. No one knows what he can do for a full game at the helm, man. And he's going up against one of the top defenses in the league.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I believe we're still a top 10 defense right now.
You guys are actually the 16th ranked defense going into this game, yeah.
Okay. I thought we were top 10 at this point. But anyway, regardless. So, middle-of-the-road defense. Our offense needs work because Ben's old.
Mm-hmm.
But again, he's still a much better quarterback than Geno Smith. There's a reason why Geno Smith hasn't played and Ben Roethlisberger plays hurt.
Exactly.
There's a reason why he is our answer and our backups are not.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe the Seahawks see something in Geno Smith that nobody sees. It's like, Wilson can sit. Because if it were detrimental, you could almost guarantee that he would be taped up and playing.
No, because he is their future. It's not, even though
their future is in his 9th year.
Yes, but he is all that they have.
I get it, but the future is now, dude.
The future is now, but for Seattle, obviously they have to win games now. Like I said earlier, they have to win games now. But being that Russell is hurt, especially on his throwing hand, that's something that you can't rush the healing process.
I get it.
And that is something that, as a quarterback especially, you cannot rush the healing process. You need to make sure that if Seattle is to contend in this season, Geno has to be the one to step up because that's all they have now.
Such a tall order.
But it's kind of like how Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston last year for Drew Brees.
Mm-hmm.
When Drew Brees went out for a couple weeks, they had to carry the load and had to make sure that they win games in his absence. And Seattle right now, I just don't think that they can in Russell Wilson's absence.
Not with Geno Smith, they can't.
Not with Geno Smith, but it is a larger sample size that we will be seeing on Sunday instead of just the fourth quarter.
A thought just occurred to me.
Okay.
Trade deadline is November 2nd. Could you see Ken as a landing spot in Seattle?
No. Because the same reason why he's not a starter in New England is because he has his persona.
It's the personality.
It's the personality. I mean, granted, I think Cam is a still viable quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's not a bad idea. But my thing is, there would be conflict. What happens if
Wilson comes back?
Wilson comes back.
Not if.
When he comes back.
When he comes back, that's Russell's team.
Yeah. So
that's no ifs, ands, or buts. That's his team.
I think to go off that, I think Seattle, they should consider signing Cam for a 1-year deal. Rocking it just this 1 year, and then just not signing him after the season.
If that winds up happening.
If that happens.
That popped into my head.
If that happens, I mean that's not a bad thing. A quarterback that is looking for work and a team that needs a quarterback, it seems pretty feasible.
Well, yeah, but you also got to remember that Miami turned it down.
That is true.
They needed a quarterback, and they took the L's.
But Tua coming back.
Tua is coming back.
And I do like that Tua, just briefly on the Dolphins, I like that the Dolphins, for this year, they said, look, we're invested into Tua.
Yeah.
They said, look, we want to see what he's got. And with that being said, I want to move on to another team that is investing a lot in their quarterback, and that is the Cardinals and the Browns. The Cardinals are investing so much into Kyler Murray, and it's working. And it's really scary good. Now, the Browns have, I believe, the best defense going into this game. Cardinals are lithium hot. Granted, did the Niners give the Browns the blueprint on how to slow down Arizona?
For sure.
They did?
They absolutely did. And I'll tell you what it is.
Okay.
It's a mobile quarterback.
Yes. But how do you slow down Kyler Murray?
That you don't do. It's putting extra points up on the board. And that's what Cleveland can do.
Oh, okay.
It's answering their points.
Also just kind of just stacking up points. Okay.
But the thing is, where I feel that Cleveland falls short, Baker isn't that mobile.
No, he's not.
He's mobile enough to get out of the way and throw the ball. You know, he's like Taylor Heineke.
Yeah.
He can get out of the way, he can scramble. It almost reminds me of Brett Favre.
Mm-hmm. He's mobile enough.
You know, and then he did that janky throw in the end zone, that janky bullshit. So, you know, he kind of reminds me of, you know, a lesser Brett Favre.
Okay.
That's where he's really starting to remind me of. Like, he can throw the ball hard. He can throw it far. He can run it in short stints pretty freaking fast. And he can make pretty good desperation throws. I'm talking Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
He is a stout quarterback. He's really starting to remind me of Brett Favre. Won't put him in that conversation yet.
No.
But it's starting to... Like, when I start thinking of comparisons, like I compare Kyler Murray to Michael Vick, it's there, it's right in your face, and if you don't see it, you're lying. You know, it's starting to peek its head around the corner for Baker, too, as to who he is emulating. But when it comes to Kyler Murray and that offense, the only way to really slow them down is to get at Murray. But again, if you make him scramble, he's just going to make plays happen, and you have to expect it.
That's the thing. When teams play mobile quarterbacks, what I've been seeing in the past couple of years with the Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson, what I've been seeing lately as how teams try to stop mobile quarterbacks is they do one of two things. They commit to zone and say, look, you can only beat us throwing the ball. We're going to take away your legs. You can only beat us throwing the ball. And teams have done that against Kyler Murray last year. In the, I believe Seattle did that especially to Kyler Murray, and Kyler Murray was able to beat them throwing the ball. So Kyler Murray can do that. But what they also do is they contain with a spy. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that terminology, is what they'll do is they will send pressure with either 4 or 5 guys against the quarterback, and they will have either typically a linebacker move the same way as the quarterback moves. So Kyler Murray moves to his right, the middle linebacker moves to his left, going the same direction as Kyler. So it's like they'll kind of mirror each other in a sense. And so that is one thing that you have to consider, going back to what you said, like with the pass rush, is like, are you willing to give up? Do you want him to beat you throwing the ball or running the ball? It's like, which poison do you want?
And even when it comes to Kyler Murray, even if you try to stop one of them, he's still going to make that. Like, let's say you try to stop his legs, he's still going to make a move.
Because he's still going to throw the ball because he has A.J. Green, D-Hop, Christian Kirk. And
Christian Kirk is special.
Christian Kirk is very special.
He's special.
And he also has James Conner coming out the backfield. So,
someone else I wrote down that I wanted to give another shout-out to, that I've been giving shout-outs since week 2 now. Mm-hmm. Rondell Moore.
Yes.
Wide receiver, impromptu running back. Mm-hmm. This kid's a star.
He is
a star.
I wouldn't say a star, but he's emerging. He is emerging. You know what it is? He gets lost in the shuffle. Think about it.
He really does. He's under the radar.
You have D-Hop, Green, Kirk, and then you have Rondell
Moore. And he's also on special teams.
Why do you think they're putting him on special teams and running back? Because it's like, look, you need to touch the ball.
Literally, you're so fast, but we need these guys on the field.
Exactly.
So we need you on the field just as much, but we're just waiting for DeAndre Hopkins to retire, we promise you.
He ain't retiring anytime
Not
soon.
anytime soon, but this kid can sit pretty in special teams.
Oh, absolutely.
He is so freaking fast, it's unbelievable. He is so freaking fast.
He is incredibly fast, and he is another player to be watching for this game. I think how the Cardinals have to attack that Browns defense is spreading the ball. You saw Justin Herbert do it against them last week. Patrick Mahomes, obviously, week 1 against that defense. Kyler Murray has to spread the ball to different wide receivers. And obviously, you're going to put Denzel Ward on D-Hop. You're going to put your best cornerback on D-Hop because he's just your best wide receiver. But I would expect a big game from A.J. Green or Christian Kirk because I think if they're going to take away D-Hop in that game with Denzel Ward, it's going to open up a little bit more for A.J. Green and Christian Kirk coming out of the slot.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to see if Cleveland's defense is up for the challenge. That is Cleveland's defense up for the challenge?
You see, that's a big question, man, because I'm going to give a shout-out to one of the D tackles, Malik McDowell.
Okay.
He had a 6-sack early in the game, and later in the game there was a run where he came in, I don't know where the hell he came from, and he got a strip fumble.
Oh, is he on the Browns or the Cardinals? Browns. Okay.
On the Browns. So he is going to have a really good game against that offensive line in Arizona because I believe he lines up over the right tackle usually. He usually lines up on that inside A-gap, which for those who don't really, it's in between if you're a deep tackle, it is the right guard and the center. The inside A-gap is in between their shoulder pads. He likes to line up there, and he has one of the swiftest swim moves I have ever seen. I know you like the swim moves.
I do like swim moves.
He is crazy. He gets that arm up and over, and he swims through. He's over 300 pounds. It's like it's effortless.
It's like Aaron Donald, man. That's how Aaron Donald does it. That's how he does it.
But that defense, like you were saying, like how to contain his legs, they have issues with QB spies.
They do.
You know, they have issues with QB spy.
You talking about the Browns?
Yes, I'm talking about the Browns. We're on the Browns right now. You know, they have issues with QB spies. They have issues with screens still. You know, I was saying it last week, they have issues reading screens. Cardinals are a screen-heavy team. Mm-hmm. They're screen-heavy and mobile quarterback. So both of the issues that you guys have are in defending a mobile quarterback and screens. So potentially a hard day for the Cleveland defense. But, you know, that pass rush is very sick. That secondary is going to be crazy. But that wide receiver, this is one of those games that you can't choose. You know me, you know where I'm going to go with this one.
I know.
But, you know.
I'm feeling the same way. I'm leaning towards Arizona, but you know what it is? I feel bad for the Browns because you just came out of a dogfight against LA.
And you have another dogfight coming in now.
Yeah, and then you have another dogfight with Arizona. So it is a tough slate of 2 games to go from Chargers to the Cardinals. That is tough for any team.
Yeah, that's tough, especially with how great both teams are playing. You know, on paper, you would think that it doesn't sound as bad as it does. But then you look at what's happening in both of those teams.
These are 2 really good teams.
I don't want to play them back-to-back. No team wants to play those 2 teams back-to-back. Those are championship teams that you have to play twice in 2 weeks. Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. And I feel bad for the Browns, but like we were even saying last year, I was saying that our division is not going to be as it was last year, where 3 teams made it to the playoffs, and obviously you went 11-0. Being that we play the NFC North this year, and
a lot harder.
And we played teams that we're assigned to in the NFC West, being that we have an extra game. Mm-hmm. We play the Rams, you play Seattle, Browns play, so etc. With that being said, I would not expect Cleveland, the Ravens, or the Steelers to have their records as glamorous as it was. As glamorous as it was last year. This year, every win is going to be earned.
It's detrimental.
Every win is earned.
For sure.
And we are going to be seeing it's going to be a fight.
But this game in particular is going to be a shootout,
I feel a shootout. I just think the best way to describe this game is a fight.
This game's going to be a fist fight.
It's going to be a fist fight between these 2 teams because they're both hot,
without a doubt,
going right into it.
Yeah.
So even though the Browns did lose, they put up 500 yards of offense and 42 points.
Did you hear anything about Myles Garrett being hurt? Because I was watching the highlights. I didn't see him much.
As of this moment, no, I have not heard of him injured.
Because, again, I was watching the highlights, and McDowell showed himself, but Myles Garrett I didn't see his number. I didn't see him on the field.
We will look into that and see if he's available for this game.
Okay.
That is something to keep an eye on because he is a game changer as well. But do you have any final thoughts on this game?
No, that was just my final thought, was if Myles Garrett was playing this game, because he could be the game changer for this game. If he is in and if he's out, it's going to be a big hit for Cleveland.
It's going to be a huge vacancy on that D-line. You're absolutely right. But I want to move on to the Bills and the Titans, that Monday night game. Man, the Bills swamped the Chiefs. And, man, that was... I was expecting the Chiefs to kind of put up a fight, but, man, no, the Bills, that defense is tough. That defense is absolutely tough. And I was actually wrong before I said the Browns have the number one defense. I was wrong. The Bills actually have the number one defense going into this game. But as you and I were talking about before, this game is going to be probably a higher difficulty for the Bills. And the reason I say that is because, yes, they have the number one defense. And if you look at their numbers, they only gave up 700 yards passing, 700-plus yards passing, and about 300-plus yards rushing going into this game. The best running back that they went up against was Antonio Gibson in Washington. And the Chiefs didn't really run it with Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now he's hurt, too.
Hurt, right.
But with that being said, the Bills' defense has not gone up against Derrick Henry this year. And Derrick Henry, I think people are sleeping on him. And we got to make sure people aren't sleeping on Derrick Henry. He has, in 5 games, he has 640 yards, first in the league, 7 rushing touchdowns, first in the league. He's averaging just under 5 yards a carry.
Okay.
But last week against the Jags, he had 130 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. He is a man on a mission. This is going to be a true challenge for the Bills because I want to throw it to you. Can the Bills' defense stop Derrick Henry?
You see, again, and you and I spoke about this off air, that the key to stopping Derrick Henry is initiating contact.
At the point of attack.
At the line of scrimmage. Yeah. You let that man take 2 steps or more, and he's at full speed. And that's what sets him apart from all of these running backs. These running backs, now, they need like a sweeping edge to get that momentum and speed because they're tiny. They're small. They're skinny. They're fast. They're nimble. He ain't that. He's 5'11", 230 pounds, like, of solid brick muscle. And he's going to throw you on the floor if you don't hit him hard enough. But if you get him before he gets that motor running, you can get there. Chandler Jones and T.J. Watt need to have a game. Oh, no, I'm talking about the Cardinals, sorry. The Bills need to have
Gregory Rousseau.
Thank you, Greg Rousseau.
Yeah.
And Tremaine Edmonds need to have a day.
Tremaine Edmonds
need to have a day.
Yeah.
And again, it's all about turning them one-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
Now, flipping the script. Bring it to Tannehill. Make him go up against Josh Allen.
Mm-hmm. Or more so against that Bills defense and that Bills secondary specifically, where you have Micah Hyde.
Right.
A player to watch, Teron Johnson, number 24 on the Bills. He's their free safety. He's really good on that team. You have, like you said, Tremaine Edmonds, Tre'Davious White. So that defense against Ryan Tannehill, you're absolutely right. That's the way that the Bills
have to flip the script.
You have to force Tannehill to beat you.
Yes.
You can't let Derrick Henry be the one to beat you.
No. And as good as Derrick Henry is, you got to expect that he's going to get his. You gotta respect him for who he is, and you gotta let him get his, or else he's going to get mad and he's not going to let you guys get anything. Let him get his, and then you gotta give the reins to Tannehill. I don't believe Julio Jones is back. A.J. Brown's back. So they got one piece. But one piece is still enough with the arm that is Tannehill. Tannehill is good. He isn't great. And with how fast-paced that Buffalo team is as a whole, Tannehill can't keep up. If Derrick Henry gets stopped behind the line of scrimmage, Tannehill can't keep up with that team.
Yeah, I think one thing that the Bills' defense did against the Chiefs very well is that the Bills' defense played a lot of zone and a lot of contain. They were allowing receivers to get the underneath routes, but Mahomes didn't want them. So that's the thing. The Bills' defense is like one of those defense that we discussed earlier, is that they're going to force you to create a 10 to 12 play drive to beat them. You're not going to get cheap touchdowns, and especially with Julio Jones being out, he's a player that you would have to obviously double, which then opens up your other wide receivers, A.J. Brown, and so on and so forth. I think with that being said, you're absolutely right. The Bills' defense, if they stop Derrick Henry at the point of attack, force Ryan Tannehill to be the one to beat you, I think it's going to be a very rough day for the Titans. But with that being said, I'm going to flip it, obviously, to the Bills' offense going up against that Titans' defense. That Titans' defense is not good.
No.
That Titans' defense is not good at all.
No.
They're pretty bad. And especially with that Bills' offense, because they have Stephon Diggs,
And Josh Allen,
Emmanuel Sanders,
who just gets better with age.
Gets better with age.
My God.
Cole Beasley sneaks in there.
Again, gets better with age.
Devin Singletary, who they don't feed too much. And I think that may be an issue going forward, but we'll see. If a team forces the Bills to run the ball, are they capable of doing that? And I want to see that. But the Titans, they're just going to give up. They're not. Their defense is not that good, even though they have Bud Dupree and they have
Byard.
They have Byard. They have some good players, but they're just not there.
They're not there.
They're not there,
especially to go after Buffalo.
Yeah,
you know, that's what I mean by you have to have Tannehill beat Josh Allen.
Exactly.
Josh Allen is going to roll that defense.
He's going to get hit.
He's going to roll that defense. It's not going to be pretty on the defensive side for Tennessee. Now you flip the script when they're on offense and you make Tannehill answer that. There's no answer.
Yeah.
I like the Titans. You know I like the Titans. They can't keep up here. There's no keeping up here. I feel like in every way, shape, or form, the Bills are going to just jump on them.
There is a way for teams that are up against a really stellar offense. If you have a solid run game, there's a phrase in football. It's called shortening the game. And this was implemented back in 1990 in the Bills-Giants Super Bowl with Otis Anderson. The Bills had a stellar offense, and at the K-gun offense, and they were flinging the ball across the field. But the way the Giants kept the Bills off the field was that they were able to run effectively. And I think getting back to this game, being that the Bills have another stellar offense that goes up and down the field at will, Derrick Henry has to be the key for this game for the Titans to succeed, because he needs to be the one to shorten the game. He needs to be the one to run the ball and make sure that Josh Allen does not see the field. And one statistic that you can look at that really determines if a team is running the ball effectively is the time of possession. And if a team runs the ball effectively and kills a lot of time, then their time of possession is going to be far more significant than their opponents. And so what you see is, especially in the Ravens, for example, we run the ball very efficiently, and we kill a lot of time off the clock, and we dominate possession. With that being said, it prevents the other team from seeing the field, and it also minimizes their possession. So, if you have about 10 possessions in a game, but the other team is running the ball very effectively, you may only have 6 in that game. So you would have 4 possessions less than what you would normally have.
Right.
So with that being said, Derrick Henry has to be the one to shorten the game for the Titans. It's going to be a tough task. It's going to be the hardest task not only for the Bills, because that's going to be the best running back that they're going to be against, but it's also going to be a test again for the Titans. Can you stop the Bills? And can you shorten the game to make sure that your team has a chance to win late?
And flip the script. Can the Bills do what they do while chewing enough clock to keep Derrick Henry off the field?
It's true.
They also have to worry about Derrick Henry popping off at any time.
Mm-hmm.
It can just happen where he puts the team on his back and the Bills don't know what to do.
Yep.
So that's a double-edged sword when it comes to time on possession. This game is going to be won on time on possession. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Mm-hmm. The offense that is on the field longest is going to win.
Yeah, easily. So I actually want to move on to the last game that we wanted to talk about, and that is the Broncos and the Raiders. Mm-hmm. Now, we talked about John Gruden earlier about his emails and stuff. And I want to reiterate, please check out the articles by the New York Times and Washington Post about this, because this is obviously something that goes beyond football. But with that being said, I want to focus in on the Raiders specifically and not John Gruden. Mm-hmm. John Gruden is no longer a part of the Raiders. So I want to just talk about just this game.
Yes. And
I want to just ask you straight up, do the Raiders bounce back after everything this past week? Do they bounce back this game?
It's going to take a lot. There's a lot of issues that portrayed themselves last week, whether it was a mental shot that made them play as bad as they played, because they played pretty bad even though they hung in. They played bad. There's holes everywhere and everything was exploited. If you watch those highlights, you see tackling issues in the red zone still. You see open field tackling. They're missing easy tackles, not zone issues, zone runs. Again, very problematic. Their pass rush is concerning. It was almost non-existent. Derek Carr, he loses his composure real quick. He's another one of those players where he is his own worst enemy at times. Lamar Jackson's the same way.
Oh yeah, 100%.
He has found a good way to cope with that and overcome throughout the game. Derek Carr he can do that, but it happens at a slower pace.
It does.
He gets in his head and you see it withers away until it's almost too late, and then he can fight still even while it's happening. But the mistakes he makes are detrimental. They're not ones that you can just brush off and come back. It's a big pick. It's a fumble. It's a real late sack. It's hanging on to the ball when you should have thrown it away. It's doing something. Doing something that a rookie would do at this stage in the game. And it's like, we all know that's because you just got mentally checked from something, and now you have to break that wall again. That you are not that quarterback anymore. That you have moved past that. You know what to do. Mm-hmm. He gets in his own way. He gets one mistake and he goes, I don't know what to do anymore. What do I do? How do I get past this? Mm-hmm. And he knows what to do. I want to see Josh Jacobs do better.
Yes.
I want to see him perform. Mm-hmm. He's a stout running back, but that offensive line is very weak. The defense this week, though, is nowhere near as tough as they played last week. The Broncos defense is nowhere near as tough. So I feel like this may be a good bounce-back game for the Raiders, where it's like, just like with the Steelers, like, okay, we're going to go and beat up this team and then we'll move on. Mm-hmm. This is going to mean a lot more to the Raiders in terms of a retribution game.
Yeah.
But I feel like this one is a good retribution game for the Raiders.
I think with the Raiders, they're a team that they went 3-0 and they lost 2 since. With that being said, I never really bought into the Raiders. This is the Raiders that we saw against the Bears is kind of what I expected to see them throughout the season. And I agree with pretty much all your points. I would love to see Josh Jacobs run the ball more because he is a very good running back, a very good physical running back. that you just really like to see in this league. Derek Carr, I agree with you. He can be his worst enemy. I think more specifically, Derek Carr is too predictable. Mm-hmm. Being that you know that he's either going to be throwing to Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, Ruggs, and Renfrow, almost in that order.
Just about.
He's looking for Waller first.
That's his number one.
And Darren Waller is a fantastic tight end. He's an absolute stud of a tight end.
Number one shouldn't be a tight end ever.
Exactly.
It's just not how it should be.
And typically you see a lot with younger quarterbacks, they depend on the tight end a little bit more than their wide receivers. For the first couple years, you saw, for my Ravens, for instance, you saw Lamar depend on Mark Andrews for the first couple of years. But now he's spreading the ball to wide receivers more. But with that being said, yes, Patrick Mahomes, he has Travis Kelce, obviously that, but he also has Tyreek Hill. So he
and at the time he had Sammy Watkins too.
Yes, he did have Sammy Watkins as well. But obviously Mahomes, that's predictable as well. He's either going for Tyreek Hill or Travis Kelce, and Derek Carr is either going for Derek Carr is going for Darren Waller or Henry Ruggs on that deep shot. It's just a deep shot to Ruggs, and then Ruggs and then Renfrow on a curl or a slant,
something like that. Right.
So I think Derek Carr is a little bit more predictable. Now I want to, if the Raiders can win this, and I think that they can and they will win this, because they are the better team than the Broncos. I want to flip it to the Broncos real quick. Mm-hmm. We talked about that before. They have a really good team, a very good roster. Their defense is pretty good. It's good. It's not like the Steelers or the Bills defense or anything. It's not stellar, but it's solid. And I said before that they have a lot of young pieces around them. It's just Teddy Bridgewater. But with that being said, I still don't buy into that Raiders defense. Again, that pass rush is good when they want to be.
When they want to be.
Right. When they want to be good. But with that being said, the Broncos, I think Teddy Bridgewater, he's a very efficient quarterback. I think he might be able to exploit the Raiders' defense a little bit, but I still think that the Raiders can come out on top on this. But I think the key for them is running the ball. Is honestly just being very simple. Don't overdo it. Just run the ball. You have a divisional opponent that has, like I said, a solid defense. You run the ball on them. Give Josh Jacobs more than 15 rushing attempts. Don't rely on Derek Carr, but let him be efficient enough. And I think that's the formula for the Raiders. It's that defense, man. I just really don't trust their defense.
You see, in this, I don't trust either defense. I don't really trust Teddy Bridgewater because we've seen that the Raiders can put up points.
But he's efficient, though.
He's efficient, yes. But can he match the points that the Raiders can put up?
Can they put up points?
They can. They can put up points. Yeah. They haven't in recent weeks, but they can.
They can, I think.
But and when you look at the Broncos, the points they put up, who are they against? The three worst teams in the league.
Well, I'm looking more so in the past 2 weeks for the Broncos, where they played against the Ravens and the Steelers, lost to both of them, obviously. 7 points against the Ravens, but 19 points against your Steelers. And
right, but you can't 19 points.
Most of that was in garbage time because the Steelers already got so much of a lead. But the Raiders don't have that Steelers defense. So, I don't know. This is one of those games where it's a divisional game where almost anything could happen. It could go, the pendulum can swing either way. But I think the Raiders, they need to win this a little bit more than the Broncos. And I think because we didn't expect much from the Broncos this year, and being that the Raiders started off 3-0 pretty hot, it would be very deflating for them to go 3-0 and then
drop to 3-3.
Drop to 3-3. And then they'll go right back to where we
where they were.
Right where we kind of thought that they would be. So I think that they need to win this one more so for the locker room and for the people of Oakland because Las Vegas, thank you. Because John Gruden, and obviously what he said was vile and horrific, but he does not define the Raiders organization. He was a part of it, yes, but he does not define who they are. And I think right now they need to define who they are without John Gruden.
For sure.
And so keep it simple, run the ball, be efficient, make the plays. Don't turn the ball over to the Broncos because Teddy B, I think he can still do it. He can still be efficient and win games.
Well, yeah, but also so can Derrick Carr on the right there.
Oh, yeah, they can.
You know, the both of them, for some reason, the planets need to align for them to play right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this game can be one of those games that, if given the chance that the planet aligns for the both of them, it could be a very interesting game. So maybe this should be one that people watch out for.
I would expect a low-scoring affair, but I would expect a very physical matchup.
I feel something here, though. I feel like something could happen here. You know, I don't know. I don't know what it is about this game that seems more interesting as we talk about it. But the more that we talk about it, the more tight it sounds.
You know what it is because being that everything that's happened throughout this week, and I don't have this on my notes, but being that everything that's happened throughout this week, this game has a lot more emotional value to it because of everything that's happened. And I think the Raiders, they need to define themselves as a team that is not reflected in John Gruden.
Right.
And they need to establish who they are and just win games. And to quote the late, great Al Davis, the former owner of the Raiders, just win, baby.
Yeah, just win.
Just win, baby. So, with that being said, let's move on to our picks for this upcoming week. So we have an incredible slate of games this week, and we're going to be making our picks to decide who's going to win. Last week, I won 10 out of 16, and Chris Palmer won 11 out of 16 picks. So,
shit, I beat you for the first time. Okay.
I know, right?
I'll take it.
So, with that being said, we're going to be making our picks this week for these upcoming games, and we're going to be starting with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against the Eagles on Thursday night. Granted, at the time of airing, the game hasn't played, but once this video airs,
this video should air prior to the Thursday night game.
Okay.
It'll be up tomorrow, probably around 1, 2 o'clock.
We're not clairvoyants, but but we're going to try to be. So with that being said, I'm taking Tampa to win this game.
Is that even a question? Really?
But I think Philly's going to fight.
It's going to be a fight, but
they're going to be scrappy.
They can't hang.
They can't hang. No, they're not going to be able to put up the points like Brady can. But they're a scrappy team.
For sure. They're scrappy, but they're going to lose.
Okay, so what's the next game?
Minnesota and Carolina.
Oh, man. You know, I'm going to take Minnesota on this one.
Minnesota on that one?
I like they have a little bit of momentum.
Okay.
After last week against the Lions, and I think they are a better team than their record says that they are. But I'm going to take the Vikings on that one.
You know what? I think I'm with you. I think I'm going to go with Minnesota on this one. You know, I agree that they have a head of steam right now. Carolina is coming off of 2 big losses in a row now. They lost to Carolina.
They lost to Dallas
the week
and
before.
then they lost to Philly.
Right.
Yeah.
So now they're coming off 2 loss streak. I don't know. Again, Minnesota's that interesting team that you just don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm with you. Miami, Jacksonville.
And that one's
in London, 9:30 in the morning, Sunday morning.
So with that being said, I'm going to take Miami on this one. I think even if Tua doesn't come back, I think Jacoby Brissett plays a well enough game to beat Jacksonville. I just don't like Jacksonville's defense. Trevor Lawrence, though, I don't know. I don't know how I trust rookie quarterbacks traveling overseas.
Right.
Zach Wilson played, I guess, well enough to put 20 on the board against Atlanta, but then again, that's Atlanta. They're going to be
They're going to choke.
Yeah, they're going to choke either way. But with that being said, I'm going to take Miami to win this game. Bust out those Dolphins jerseys, baby.
I'm going to have to agree with you that Miami's going to win again. I have no inclination to say when the Jaguars are going to win their first game. If it was going to be a game, this would be the closest game that they have a chance at winning. Only because Jacoby Brissett is behind the helm. Trevor Lawrence is better than Jacoby Brissett. It's just the way it is. Yeah. He's a better athlete. But the Dolphins are a better team. That defense is better than Jacksonville, and it's not even close.
Yeah, and for that, I'm taking Miami.
For that, I'm going to take Miami. Mm-hmm. Baltimore versus LA.
I can see this going either way. And this was one of those games where when you pick win or loss in the beginning of the season, I was like, let's just say loss if the Chargers are what they think they are. But I love the way the Ravens have been able to overcome this season, especially. My heart, we're going with the Ravens.
All right. I'm going to have to go with the Magic, man. I'm going with LA.
I respect it.
It's not doesn't have anything to do with the fact that you're in the division. It's just the adversity that Lamar has overcome is great. He has not played the Chargers yet.
I know. I know.
And the Chargers, again, they're getting better by the week. And they're getting more prepared weekly.
Yep.
I truly expect that zone rush issues to really start going away this week. It was very rare to see it last week. It'll be almost unseen this week. Mm-hmm. So this is going to be a very hard test for Lamar, I feel.
It's going to be a tough test for both teams.
Correct.
So with that being said, this might be the game of the week.
Yeah, potential. Next, we got the other Los Angeles team going up against the New York Giants.
The Rams and the Giants. Okay, Nick Bates, bust out those Rams jerseys because I'm taking your Rams, and I'm sorry, Dad. I have no faith in your Giants.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I have no reason to say the Giants are going to win this game. They're riddled with injuries now, unfortunately, because of last week.
Yeah.
Daniel Jones being out with a huge concussion. You have Saquon Barkley out. That's 70% of their offense.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no. LA's going to roll over them. Next game. Houston versus Indy.
I'm taking the Colts, actually. I think Indy... you know what? One thing that I wanted to mention that I actually forgot to mention, Carson Wentz played extremely well against the Ravens on Monday. Mm-hmm. And I think he probably had one of his best games that he's had in a long time.
If not his career.
No, because he's had better games when he was in Philly.
Well, one of, not the best.
One of, yeah. One of. But he played extremely well against the Ravens. And that defense, I did like that defense. They just didn't make any adjustments come the second half. But I'm going to be taking the Colts on this one. I think Houston's one of the bottom teams in the league, and I think Indy's going to start beating up against the lesser tier teams.
Yeah, I can agree with that. Again, I don't really buy into Carson Wentz. This was a great game that he played. I will not take that away from him. I will never take away a team playing very well. I do it for the goddamn Bengals. I can do it for the Colts. When the Bengals play well, I'll say it. They played well. The Colts played well last week. Houston hasn't played well once. They haven't played well.
The only team they played well against was in Jacksonville. And that was it.
So they played well against a worse team.
Exactly.
That's not saying anything.
Exactly.
So I'm going to go with the Colts with you. But I still seriously hope that Indy in the future looks past Carson Wentz and decides to look for a more engaging quarterback.
Yeah.
There's someone who's more engaging in the offense versus just trying to save their own career.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I completely agree with that.
Kansas City versus Washington.
Casey. I do like the way Washington has been looking on offense, especially with Taylor Heineke. But I think this is going to be a bounce back game for the Chiefs.
I don't know, man. I'm kind of smelling upset here.
Okay.
With how flustered Patrick Mahomes got last week, and he got it early, and he didn't get out of that funk. He stopped reading his progressions. He started shooting for home run plays. It became ugly for Patrick Mahomes. That was the first time we ever watched an ugly game, and it was ugly.
I mean, that Tampa Bay Super Bowl, that was also pretty ugly.
Well, yeah, not scoring a touchdown in the Super Bowl is pretty ugly, but that was like foreshadowing to this season. Now they're sitting in the basement of their division. So I think I'm going to have to go with Washington on this one, man. I think they're going to keep that one short, sweet, and to the point and just punch him in the face.
I respect it.
You know, I think I smell upset here. So, Green Bay and Chicago.
I'm taking Green Bay on that one. Although it was nice for the Bears to get 2 wins with Justin Fields at the helm, they're just not a match for Green Bay. Green Bay is just has too much firepower on offense, being Aaron Rodgers, and their defense is actually playing pretty well. With that being said, Green Bay is just the better team, and I'm going to go with Green Bay.
Yeah, I'm going to have to say that Green Bay is the better team, but I feel like this is going to be a lot closer of a game than a lot of people expect.
Are you taking the Bears?
No, I'm going with Green Bay with you.
Okay.
I feel like they are the better team, but again, it's going to be one of those that, given the right chances, this could be one of the better games of the week.
Mm-hmm.
This could turn into a very physical, very tough matchup.
Mm-hmm.
That defense is ridiculous.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten into the Bears defense as of yet this year. Like, really gone into that defense as to why they are so menacing. Mm-hmm. And we will.
Don't worry,
we plan on doing that.
We will.
But I'm going to have to go with Green Bay this week. Mm-hmm. That team, too young.
Yeah. Okay.
So, Cincinnati and Detroit.
Now, this was actually another game that I actually kind of wanted to talk about beforehand. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to go too much into that. But, man, Joe Burrow was playing very well. He's playing very well, and like you said before, we got to give kudos to when teams and players do well. They played well even against the Packers last week. That's
a fist fight.
That was a fist fight, and if the kicker didn't freaking miss it, they could have upset the Packers. So, but on the flip side, even though Detroit has been losing games, they've been playing tough. They've been playing very tough. But with that being said, no, I'm taking the Lions on this one. I was going to take the Bengals. No, I'm taking the Lions on this one. They're playing tough. I think they get their first win against Cincy.
I wouldn't mind seeing it.
You don't believe? You don't believe, Chris Palmer?
That tandem of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase.
I know.
There's something there.
They're nasty.
There's something there.
They have a connection. That's what it is.
I got to go with Cincy.
Okay.
Cincy's the better team. They're much better. I'm sorry. I know they are playing better than the record shows in Detroit. Bengals are better.
Fuck the Bengals.
Yes.
Okay, what's the next game?
Arizona, Cleveland.
I'm taking Arizona, man. I think Cleveland that game is going to be a fight. That's the best way to describe that game. It's going to be an absolute fist fight. But I'm taking Arizona to come out on top and go 6-0.
Yeah, Arizona's moving on. They're going 6-0. And I think this might be the toughest game they have this year. And then it's pretty much free running from here.
Arizona?
Yeah.
Well, they do have to play the Rams again, and then the Niners again. Divisional games, that's always tough. Seattle's not going to be too formidable.
Again, with how hot they are, I feel like they're going to take this division.
Yeah, I think Arizona has a good chance to win the division. Still very early to tell, but I'm taking them to win this game and go 6-0.
New England versus Dallas.
Dallas is playing extremely well, running the ball extremely well. Dak's playing extremely well. Trayvon Diggs, Micah Parsons, the list goes on. This Dallas has just been. I'm very impressed with how they turned over that defense. Mm-hmm. And with that being said, and how pedestrian the Patriots' offense is, I'm taking Dallas to win that game.
Yeah, I'm going to go with you with Dallas. The only thing that I am interested to see is going to be the coaching. It's going to be an alpha in Bill Belichick and Mike McCarthy. He isn't considered one of the elite coaches in the league. He should be, I feel. But, right, it's arguable on both sides. It's kind of.
I personally wouldn't. I think he's a good coach.
Right. So, but again, he does very good strategy. He's a good strategist.
Yeah.
And, of course, now they have the undefeated run game. Can't be beat.
Yeah. I think this game in particular, even though I want to know what Belichick takes away from Dallas. What do you take away? Which running back do you take away because the other one's going to go off? Or do you take away CeeDee Lamb or Amari Cooper? Either way, you still Dallas.
Going to get hurt.
Dallas is loaded. So with that being said, I'm taking Dallas.
I'm with you on Dallas.
Okay.
To the next game, it is Las Vegas and Denver.
I went back and forth on this one, but I think the Raiders overcome, and I think that they beat the Broncos.
Yeah.
Because they need this game more than the Broncos, that I feel. And you could tell when a team really wants to win more. They just want it more. I think the Raiders, they need this game. After everything that's transpired this week, I think they can do it.
This game is definitely going to be full of emotion. It's going to be completely physical. A player to watch out for, I was going to say it earlier, Carl Nassib.
Yes.
He is going to play out of his mind in spite of him.
I would like to see that.
And he's going, reason being, all the heinous things that he said, homosexual comments, Carl Nassib is openly gay.
Mm-hmm. For those who were not aware, Carl Nassib is he's a pass rusher on the Raiders' first open. No, not the first, but
I think he was the second, but he was the first starting.
Yes.
This kid who was drafted by the Rams never started.
Yes, his name was Michael Sam.
Yeah. Carl Nassib was coached by John Gruden.
Mm-hmm.
And those emails came out the whole nine, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
I feel he's going to come out with a different type of edge on his shoulder to come out and like really stick it. And I think Las Vegas defense is going to show a different leaf.
Yeah, I think the Raiders are going to take this one.
Next game is Seattle and Pittsburgh.
Now, I told you before, if Russell Wilson was in this game, I'd probably take Seattle. But I'm taking your Steelers to win. I think they get back on track. I like, as a Ravens fan, I have always liked Mike Tomlin. And I always thought he was a very smart coach. And he is a smart coach. He's a very smart coach. And I would love to play for him as a player. He's just one of those coaches you would just love to just play for. I think he's smart enough to know, look, Ben can't throw 50 times a game. We have a stout running back who needs to touch the ball more. I think he commits to the formula. And we're going to have a talk if he does not commit to the formula.
We better have a talk if it doesn't, because I'll be upset too.
But give Najee the ball. Very simple. Give Najee Harris the ball. And with that, I'm going to take the Steelers to win this game. You guys get back to 3-30, get back to 500.
Yeah, I think we're coming back to 500. This last week was a very good shining light. It was another form of, I guess you could call it a retribution game, because there were things that showed that haven't showed in years.
Yeah.
Going 16 games without a 100-yard rushing game, that's a long time. A full season worth of games, and it took until week 5 of 2021 to get that game.
Yep.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And that's with have James Conner. We had what else do we have? We had another running back I can't remember his name.
Benny Snell.
Thank you, Benny Snell. He barely sees the field now, and I don't mind it. I think he has like 15 snaps total this year so far.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going with Pittsburgh too. And we're going to go on to our final game now. Buffalo and Tennessee.
I smell it.
Do you?
I smell it.
You smell it in the wind, huh?
I smell an upset here. I'm taking the Titans to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
Because the Bills have not faced a running back like Derrick Henry. I want to know if they can, but I think the Titans kind of shortened the game against it. I just smell it. I smell it in the air.
I don't smell that.
You smell the smell?
No.
The smelly smell that smells?
I don't. I don't. I smell buffalo. I see buffalo running all over this team, possibly putting up another 40-piece and leading Ryan Tannehill to try and match that, and that's just not.
Ain't gonna happen.
So, that are our picks. Do you have any final thoughts for this week?
You know what? I think this week, especially that Raiders game, that game is going to have a lot of emotional value to it. And sports it's an emotional entity where it's a collection of players, especially football, where it's just a collection of players that really, it's a band of brothers. And I think that I would really like to see that game, to see how the Raiders play, and to see them hopefully come out on top. Because after everything that's happened this week, and again, please look up the articles on the Washington Post and New York Times and stuff. We are in for some good games, but that game in particular, I want to watch.
Yeah, it's going to be an emotional game. It's going to be an emotional week for everybody, especially with all the drama that's going on. But as we all know, some things are bigger than football. But as of right now, it is still the football season, and we still have Sunday to worry about.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is going to be a very exciting week, man. We have a very, very good week coming, and I'm ready.
I am ready too. So with that being said, make sure you check us out next week on Let's Talk Football. We're going to have our recap, and we talk about more games in that following week. With that being said, let's sign off, Chris Palmer.
Yeah, you guys be sure to give us a like, a comment, subscribe, whatever you guys feel. Tell your friends about us. We're all.
Tell your friends.
All right, guys.
Tell your